before.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and this will be the last but one session. I think it is penultimate session, so thank you so much for giving us your time again this afternoon. I'm really pleased this afternoon to be introducing the panel based on the sort of co-production work that has been a really focal point of all of our programme. So developing co-designed and co-implemented peer-led and inclusive services is really, really important for us. And I have to say we've got 4 really fascinating individuals on the panel this afternoon for you. And also a little bit of an interactive session just to keep you moving. Some of the feedback is that we've been sat down too long and not moving. So hopefully we'll get you up and about and doing something this afternoon. So just quickly to introduce the panel. First of all, I'm going to introduce Renee Keat. He's the Director of FIT, which is the Academy of Community Mental Health Services, part of the HKZ in Netherlands, North Holland North, and the Chair of the European Community Mental Health Service Provider Network, EUCOMS. Ably supporting it this afternoon is Michael Ryan, the National Head of Mental Health Engagement and Recovery, Health Service Executive in Ireland, here in the home place where we are today. Then we also have 2 experts, Michael Norton, who you will have heard from last night, who wrote his book, and it's still available for purchase. Okay. So yeah, please stop and see him afterwards. Who's the National Engagement and Recovery Lead. And without further ado, it's my last but not least is Beverly Rose, Project Leader, Consultant and Researcher of Experiential Expertise on behalf of the User Research Centre in Netherlands. And actually, Beverly, I have to say, is the person that's kept me in touch with most of my things during the planning of this event at all hours, day and night, which has been fantastic. So really great to see. So we're hoping that we'll have an interactive session. I'm going to pass you over now to Renee, who's going to start, and I'm going to keep everyone to time. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sean, and thank you for all being closer to us. I still see some people there. It's like this jar, and the pebbles or the rocks were really scattered. Now it's more close, because that's what we want. We're going to ask you a couple of questions, and we don't have round tables as we just saw them on the screen in the USA. So the only alternative is like we did, the Mental Health Euro people did it, that the people on this row turn their chairs and then talk with the people in that row. But if you're alone in your row, then it's kind of hard to have a dialogue. So if there's still some people who think I could be closer, you're very welcome to come. So I'm talking about peer expertise, and you can't read all the slide, but it's all there. You can read my text. That's really amazing. So my key message is that peer expertise is a fundament of community mental health care. And if you think about, okay, fundament, so what's the opposition of a fundament? Well, in my case, it would be an ornament. Often it's still seen as an ornament, something nice to have, but as soon as the budget cuts, it can be the first thing to disappear. And a fundament is something you can't take out. And then first, a personal introduction. I can see it here, of course, here too, then I can still look at you. So I work at Vergeet North Holland Noord. My role there is Director of the FIT Academy Training and Learning and the Chair of EUCOMS. And my Facebook story, I'm not active on Facebook though, but if I were, you would see I have a wife and three sons. I play guitar. Music is a very important thing in my life. Playing guitar and singing, something we know, by the way, that's very effective for your mental well-being. We can use it more. But also, you can't see there, but the below is a bit like I have my dark episodes too, that you could classify as depression. I have them on a recurrent base, actually. I've been fine, actually, for the last 3 years. You know, you're never sure because it's multicausal, but I think having been open about it over the last years and more, in a way, has also helped me. This maybe is the key of my presentation, that you have lived experience. We all, in this group, everyone has lived experience. And this lived experience doesn't make you a peer expert, but by reflection, the lived experience can become what we call peer knowledge. And still then, no, you're not a peer expert. In fact, that's the level that I've reached. I think I have peer knowledge, that I'm open, I've reflected about it, and I'm learning to use it also in my interaction with patients. But by training, and training is, of course, combination, as always, of formal training, but also by doing the practice, you learn, and you have intervision groups on that, then it becomes a skill like peer expertise. And this, fortunately, you see there's a global network on mental health, peer network, but this message that it has also been adopted by the WHO in the most recent World Mental Health Report. So we have 3 resources, and that is an enrichment. You have science, you have the practice, and you have the lived expertise. And those are 3 resources, in fact, of my skills, of my knowledge. But then if my personal story of how to use these 3 resources is going back to 1998. Why then? Well, then I started my training to become a psychiatrist. There was already a lot of science, I knew about it, I had read a lot. There was very little practice, only in my medical doctor training, because I had other things before. And the lived experience was there, but was completely separated from the other 2 domains. If I look at 2005, by then I was young, well, not maybe in age so young, but I was a recent psychiatrist. And the science and the practice had, of course, enormously grown in all my training. Lived experience was still there, but it had become really small. It was not really at all a part of my professional identity. And why not? Well, it's a sort of what we call the bandwagon effect. You don't do it as a professional, so I didn't do it either and didn't ask much questions about it until we started to work with peer experts. And then I thought, oh, this is really strange that we really appreciate the input of peer experts and that we don't use our own lived experience. So this is where I'm standing now, looking for ways to integrate these 3, science, practice, lived experience. And as I said already, my key message is it's from an ornament to a fundament. It's not just having the peer expert in mental health care. It's also present in the social care. But it's much more than that, and this is also how I relate to it as a leader. I've been director of 12 flexible ACT teams, now I'm director of the academy. So this is about a learning together process, but you see it's also the new orientation in research. That's why I'm really happy that Beverly Rose came with me, because she used the peer knowledge as a resource in her way of doing science. Then peer experts become entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. They start their own companies, like in the Netherlands you have Herstel Talent, in Norway Human Aspect, and there are many more examples. And the mental health service then become clients of those entrepreneurs. And you have within the service also entrepreneurs who start recovery colleges. And you see more and more there are local networks, national networks, and international networks, like the Global Mental Health Peer Network that I mentioned, with whom we also have a memorandum of understanding. So it's there to stay, it's there to grow, and that is an enrichment. It also brings balancing acts together with it. And I see leadership more and more as what is called in the social learning theories as systems convening, bringing groups together. So that's for me the most important task of a leader, bring different groups together. But then you encounter balancing acts. For example, are we really normalizing, or is exceptional status? And I see both. They're part of the group, colleagues, but also have an exceptional status. For example, by sometimes an exaggerated way of praising, oh, so good that you tell this story. That can be meant very nice, but it can be also stigmatizing. Another thing is, it's also about personal knowledge. But sometimes that can be in conflict, or at least that's what people tell me, in conflict with the role as a professional, with learning and training. Doesn't that take the soul out of the peer expertise? I'm not sure about this, but so therefore this is a balancing act. Is the colleague in the interdisciplinary team? This was a personal dilemma that I encountered in our service. We had them in the FACT teams, but then we had a radical system change and we created much more ambulatory teams. We didn't have enough peer experts, and the peer experts then in our service said, we want to work in the recovery colleges. And I was first against that, but they had very strong arguments to otherwise they would be scattered and fragmented and a few hours in a team. So they developed it there, but that way we also created in the recovery colleges, in fact, our monodisciplinary teams. And the fourth balancing act is the pride versus ambivalence. I see many peer experts who have pride, but I've also seen peer experts who have, because it's one of their resources also. So, for example, one of them in our service became the communication manager. And then I thought, well, that's really good, peer expert. Well, yeah, I left the peer expert a little bit behind me. And I saw the same with a peer expert who became a director. And that surprised me. I can understand it, but you see, there is often still an ongoing ambivalence. like for myself, I'm a psychiatrist, but I mainly work as a director, so I don't do that much clinical work, but it's still part of my professional identity to be a psychiatrist. I find it sometimes different for peer experts. So these are my balancing acts that I encounter, and having said that, I'm happy to give the floor for the second introduction, go to Ireland, to Michael Ryan. Huh? You do it. Okay. He does it for you. Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks very much, Renee, for your presentation and setting the scene of what we want to talk to you about. And it's an absolute privilege for me to be here to speak with you all this afternoon. And we're getting to the end of the session and the 2 fantastic days. And I don't know if you're like me, but I don't know if I can fit any more knowledge or information into my head. But I never was introduced as being a fascinating person before, so thank you, Sean. I'll reflect on what that might mean. So I'm Michael Ryan. I'm head of mental health engagement and recovery. That's my official title in the HSE, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that shortly, what I and my team do. But who am I as a person? So I'm from County Mayo and in the west coast of Ireland. So those of you who are visiting from overseas, you've been around Dublin, you see it's a lovely, charming city, but there are other places in Ireland as well, and some say, Galway is lovely and Cork is lovely and Donegal. But I know we're into evidence-based information sometimes here. So I'd just like to say that I come from Westport in County Mayo that was officially voted the best place in Ireland to live. So, I'm a family man. I'm married. I have a son. I like to coach his football team. We're not that successful, but that's... I live by the sea. I like to swim in the sea. I like to go boating. I like to grow organic vegetables. I like to be part of my church. I like to do lots of things. And that's my expression of myself as a person. That's who I am. But on the bottom there, it's missing. But anyway, I have also got lived mental health experience. So I've used mental health services. And for a long period of my life, my mental health challenges were a very debilitating force in my life. Through it, I became homeless. I was unemployable. All my relationships broke down. But obviously, you see something has changed, that I'm in a different place today. And that thing is called recovery. And through recovery, I've been able to accomplish what I can as a person. And we all know that's exactly what recovery is about and what mental health services should be about, helping people to achieve their absolute potential as people. As I said, I'm head of the Office of Mental Health Engagement and Recovery, and was set up to integrate lived experience into how we deliver our services in the HSE. So we want to use lived experience to inform the design, the delivery, evaluation of our services. I should say that usually slides and me don't get on too well. They never seem to be able to keep up with me, and they never seem to be able to say what I'm saying. But just to give you an example of some of the work that we do in our office. So we heard Minister Butler and others talking about... Okay, thank you. We heard Minister Butler talking about our national policy, sharing the vision. It's got 99 recommendations. So the office that I am head of with my team, who most of them are dotted around here, hi team, we've been asked to implement 11 of those recommendations. And bearing in mind that our office was specifically set up because of its lived experience expertise. So that's a great endorsement of the work we do, of the value of lived experience, that we're given a key role in the implementation of our national policy. We're also involved in the development and implementation of peer support working across our services. Michael leads on that. We're involved in the implementation of IPS working across the service. We're involved in the implementation of recovery education, recovery colleges. Fiona leads on that. We're involved in developing engagement structures so that we can hear the voice of people using our services. And Jessica leads on that. And I should say Debbie is very involved in the IPS. So that's a little snapshot of the work we do in our office. Why do we do it? Why is lived experience important? There's loads of stats coming out now about the type of illnesses, conditions, diseases, whatever you want to call them, that people suffer in the world, and a lot of them are lifestyle. The majority, COVID aside, are lifestyle related. So the solution is empowering people to find solutions for themselves, to self-manage more. And that's what the recovery approach talks about. I must keep my eyes down here. So the WHO tells us, that recovery is the new paradigm of the 21st century. But the main reason we should be involved is because it's a human right. It's our right as people to be involved in our own care. And if there was no other reason to do it, then that's why it should be done. But there are reasons, and those reasons are, it helps people to achieve better recovery outcomes. It helps us deliver better mental health services. So that's why it's so important that, we have that partnership between those who use services, their families, carers and supporters, and those who deliver it, because it creates better and more recovery-orientated services. And I suppose I should say that in the work that we do in our office, it involves about 200 staff now directly across the country delivering those programs. And the vast majority of those have lived experience. And I'd like to acknowledge the work Mental Health Ireland do in being one of our host organisations to help us employ a lot of those people. But with having all those lived experience people in the service, that creates challenges too. So we need leadership, and we need to be able to support lived experience and as we utilise it. And I suppose that's been my role for the last 10 years, to be, I suppose, in a position of leadership. Whether I'm good or bad at it, I'll let others decide, but this is where I'm landed. You're stuck with me. When I was preparing for this, I was trying to think, well, what exactly is peer leadership? How would we define it? I'm not like my colleague Michael here, who excels in academia and all that. So anything you see here just comes out of my little head. But I think we know what a peer is, So it's somebody who understands at a very personal, empathetic and emotional level what it's like to experience and live with mental health challenges. I think we can all more or less agree with that. Then what is leadership? It's the ability to influence, guide and support others to share and achieve a common goal. So the goal is recovery. The goal is to be better at our job. The goal is to have a recovery-orientated service. So we try and put the two together. Maybe we can say what peer leadership is. It's the ability to empower others to understand, value and utilise their own or others' lived experience to attain personal recovery goals or to bring about change in wider organisations or society. So that's just a comment I found, or a quote from the Harvard Business School. Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure the impact lasts in your absence. And 2 minutes, I'm told I better. Beverly, one of the traits of Irish people is they're not very good at timekeeping. Well, possession is 9/10 of the law. So, just to talk about, I suppose, I will get there. In my experience, what are the characteristics of peer leadership? and this is just from my own sort of thoughts on this, you need to be reconciled with self. So we need to be at peace with our own experience, and that's not to minimize how traumatic or difficult it may have been for us, but I suppose to be in a position of leadership, we need to have moved a little bit out of the subjective and to look at things objectively and reflectively. Vision. So we need to be able to tell people to see the future of recovery and a change that others cannot see, but it is possible. We're not talking about something unrealistic, something that is achievable, but sometimes we just have to show it to others. Inspiring, it's all right having the vision, but can you communicate it to others? Can you make others believe in it? So we have to be able to inspire hope, belief, excitement that a new reality is possible. Influencing. We have to be able to convince others that change is possible, desirable and better. Integrity. The desire to live and model the principles of recovery we espouse. So, I or anyone else has to manifest, be the change, I want to see. Mentoring. We have to be able to help others to achieve their recovery and life potential. Passionate. We have to really believe in our heart the change that we're striving for and get others to believe in their heart. Because if the reason I think that people don't understand recovery is because they try to understand it with their mind, and you've got to understand it with your heart, and you've got to be able to say, if it was me, my wife, my husband, my brother, what would I want for them? Compassionate. We've got to meet people where they're at. And it's from my experience, that sometimes I meet people that maybe they seem to have a very different position to me, a very awkward, a very uninformed one, whatever it is. But, I have to accept that that's where they're at and that their experience, opinion, thinking is informed by some experience or something that has meaning for them. And that's where I've got to join the conversation. Humility. Yeah, I know something, but I don't know everything, and I can learn from others. Strategic, understanding, how systems work and how things change and so on, and to be able to see the bigger picture. So I've often been accused of going over to the dark side, and I wish I knew some Dutch. But I think it means shut up. But there's a difference between being tokenistic and strategic, because Rome wasn't built in a day and all that, and change takes time. Collaborative, we must be able to learn from others. Resilient, I'm not going to go through, there's lots of things up there, but just one comment on resilient. I'd like to congratulate Sean on his resilience, because I understand that he's a very big cricket fan. And the World Cup of Cricket is on at the moment. And in case anybody hasn't heard, Ireland beat England in cricket yesterday. So did anybody ever think that would be possible in a World Cup? So if you don't believe in change, it's possible, the impossible. There's your answer. And the last thing to say is, that leaders need to be diminishing. This is especially for you, Beverly. They can cast shadows, so they need to know when to get out of the way. So thank you very much. Michael, would you like to share your thoughts on co-production?
Hi everyone. So a lot of you probably know me from yesterday and that embarrassing speech that I had to give for the launch of my book. But anyway, I suppose I've been involved in peer support for quite some time. I don't have a presentation to give or anything like that, so you needn't worry. I'm not going to bore you with presentation stuff. But really, for me, peer support has been a little bit of giving me a comeback, giving me a second chance. As I said last night, and I'm saying it again today, I have my own lived experience of mental health challenges as well. But all I ever wanted to do was help and support people and work with people. And as a result, went and applied for the peer support worker post in 2016 and was employed in 2017 as a peer support worker. And a lot of what Michael was kind of talking about there around, and Renee, around, the essence of peer support, what is it? And really the essence of peer support is lived experience, is that thing that we call in the literature experiential knowledge, that thing that separates us from any other professional at the table. But it's more than that, because there's one thing to say that I have lived experience. It's another thing to say that I can effectively use that lived experience to support other people in recovery. And this is where a lot of my research over the last couple of years, none of it is published unfortunately, but a lot of my research in the last couple of years have kind of led on to that piece. What is lived experience? How do peers effectively use that lived experience to support others? And one of the things that I've found is that, lived experience is used throughout the relationship, but it's really used in the beginning as a way of breaking down the barriers, of a way of knocking all those hierarchical barriers so that you can be with the person on a one-to-one basis, at a mutual basis. And then it's used periodically after that to support the person or to facilitate the person to think about their own wellness and their own recovery. I think my life story, in a sense, has brought me to this kind of topic of peer leadership as well, because that was 2017. 2020, I got lucky enough to be employed as a National Engagement and Recovery Lead with the Office of Mental Health Engagement and Recovery, so the team that Michael runs, basically. And I've been lucky enough to be assigned the brief of peer support. So I've gone from a position of supporting other people who have mental health challenges to leading the way in terms of getting peer support off the ground and getting it moving. And because I have a little bit of an academic head on me, I kind of need to, the way I see our vision of peer support going forward is we can't really do a hell of a lot more until we understand what exactly works in peer support. And that's why I'm leading one of those groups that we're having by the office, looking at something called epistemology. So for anyone that doesn't know what that means, it's kind of looking at, if you look at ontology, which is what the hell is knowledge, and epistemology is how you utilize that knowledge to support other people. We're looking at trying to figure out what is lived experience as a knowledge set. What is it? And how can we actually utilize that lived experience to create the service we want to create and to support the people we want to support? And I think this topic of peer leadership is really, really important because it ties into this piece about, if we're going to be leaders in this field, we first need to know and have the academic backing of what exactly is lived experience. How can we actually utilize it to support others? So that's really it for me. I won't bore you anymore with any more academic detail, but just I think it's an important step that we're taking now towards peer leadership, really looking at how we can actually strive and move the movement of peer support and peer-led initiatives forward as we go through the future. Thank you.
Well, my name is Beverly, and I'm here on behalf of the User Research Center. User Research Center with, for, and about peer expertise. Why? Because I think peer experts need a voice, and that's why I'm here. You hear my voice. I just proved I am from the Netherlands. It's clear. And I'm here on behalf of the Dutch International Mental Health Hub. Later on, we will introduce ourselves. For now, because of my voice, excuse me, but that's my trademark. I'm quite known in the Netherlands because of my voice and my sunglasses. That's about it. In the following years, I will introduce myself more, especially in 24 when WIMHL is in the Netherlands. And now I would like to hear your voice. And maybe who would like to introduce the exercise and the assignment and the questions? I have 10 more minutes.
Okay. Didn't you see what it says there? I was being compassionate. I knew your voice wasn't working too.
But we're a good team. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you, Beverly, and thank you, Michael. So we're going to get you to participate a little bit now. So we have some discussion questions for you, and we have a proposal for you at the end. So we're going to divide you up into groups, if that's okay. So Catherine is going to help us decide on the groups. We have 3 questions and 1 general question. So you'll see the questions up there on the screen. Every time I turn away, my voice seems to go. It must be catching. So what we'd like to discuss with you is where you are in your own organisations, your own country in terms of lived experience in the development of peer leadership. So our first question is for all 3 groups. What is happening in your country organisation to develop the lived experience capacity and peer leadership? So that's for every group. Yes, go ahead.
Because there's quite a good group here, so I was just saying if first table turns into the second table turns into the third table, or the next table turns into the third, and the same from the front here. If you turn around, if your table turns around, and if your table turns around, and then there's a few stragglers where your chair and join the table, and then that means we'll have 3 sets of people at this side, 3 sets on that side.
Okay, so
Everyone then on all of the 6 tables can do the first question.
yeah, perfect. So then the first people here will be group 1 on each side. So we will have 2 group 1s. Then the second set of people will be group 2, 2 group 2s, and the third set of people will be group 3. So we'll have 2 group 3s. 10 minutes to do this. Everybody answers question 1. Group 1 answer question 2. And group 2 answer question 3. And group 3 answer question 4.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You've had your time. We are now going to collect some feedback.
Okay, what we're going to do in no particular order is I'm just going to come to a table, four of the tables, and I'm just going to get an answer to question 1, 2, 3, and 4. So Amanda, your table. So Vivian, can you just give us 1 point from question 1 that came back from your group?
Well, maybe one sort of overall point is that we saw it on a lot of different levels. So there's peer, like using peer expertise in the government on like a even EU level, and then it's also really in the countries, in an organization or outside of the organization. So there's so many places, and that all the places where you use it, you have to use it in a different way to make it work.
Would you mind taking all of those stickies and put them onto a page so that we don't lose any of the content? So in relation to question 2, did you do 2? No. Yeah. Question 2. You did 2. Just 1 point. 1 point from question 2 there.
I'll be honest, we just kept talking, so it wasn't really delineated between question 1 and question 2. But, so I'll give you 3 tiny points. So from the Netherlands perspective, in forensic healthcare, there isn't currently peer support, so there's something that we think would be exciting that they might look at adopting in the future. In Australia, there's great policy guidelines being developed around to support the peer workforce that's been adopted across Australia. Now it's part of the National Services Planning Framework, and there's a peer leadership college in Australia as well, so that's something interesting to look into. I'm really sorry that I didn't cover everyone else.
That's great. So who had question number 3? Number 3. Okay. Well, here you go. It's just to get a sense.
So what are the challenges facing lived experience and peer leadership? I think probably the common one between Scotland, England, Netherlands was that sense of strategic leadership from either government or the municipality or wherever. So it's happening, but it's a bit ad hoc, and it can be a postcode lottery in terms of funding and resourcing. So we need to see more of a strategic intent with an implementation plan.
And question 4?
Thank you.
So we had scaling best available practice, so upscaling, that we have people with lived experience as part of all our decision-making processes, from government right down to every single service, and that they sit at the top table in all decision-making, and not tokenistically, but are truly part of. And sorry, I'm cheating. I think it was 1 point, was it? Or can I do more? Okay. I am. Yeah, a lot of points. So that funding is crucial as well, but funding, it has to go with a plan and a strategy, not on its own. Money doesn't make good policy, it's what you do. And then diversity, so also in terms of, you don't have to have a diagnosis to have lived experience, that it's not based on someone telling you you have a diagnosis as well. So I think that's the point, the one big point we wanted to make. Thank you.
That one big point was very, very good. So do you want to stick all of those again on the plain piece of paper so we don't lose any of it? So I think you're getting a kind of a sense of all of the information that's coming back. Do you want to go to your proposal then now, guys?
Thanks very much, everybody, for the feedback, and it's going to really help us. We want to make a proposal to you, or for you now. I have to look down here again. Obviously, peer leadership, and how we build it is very important, as we move forward. And we want to, I suppose, get a movement going that can do that. So we want to invite you to be part of that as we move towards the next conference in 2024. So what we are asking anyone who'd like to be involved in helping us to establish a peer leadership community of practice to build peer leadership expertise as we move towards IMHL 24. We would like to invite you to a webinar on Zoom on February 8th at 8 p.m. Irish time, 9 p.m. European time. So you can, if you would sign a sheet, just pass a sheet around on between your table there, and just leave your contact number, details, your email address and your name, please. And we will contact you with the details, and please write as legibly as you can at this time of day. So that's all we have to say. We've just, on behalf of myself, Renee, Michael and Beverly, who is still talking to me, if she could talk, that was. Thank you very much for being such a receptive audience, and it has, as I said, been an absolute pleasure for us to speak with you this afternoon. So we wish you all a safe journey home when it's time to go home, but it's not time yet, and we hope that you gained loads from the conference, and we look forward to interacting with you soon and in February on the webinar. Thank you.